Hello, this is Jeff Batt with Kinetic Media, and welcome to this tutorial on how to make an image resizable. So when you're working with responsive screens or different layouts or everything, your images that you use inside of normal HTML will actually respond, and you can set a certain percentage of how much you want that to take up the window or not take up the window, or what, and basically create some different points. And so this is just a little tip, a trick that I've learned that I wanted to share that you can use inside of your HTML coding. Now I'm going to be using Dreamweaver CC, but you can use this in Sublime Text. You can use it in any text editor, but we're just going to go ahead and start out with Dreamweaver. So I'm going to create a new HTML project, and I'm going to save this project on my desktop. So I'm going to create a new folder, and let's just go ahead and call this resize, and then we're going to call our main HTML file index. And now we're going to go ahead, and in the body we're going to just insert an image. And so I'm just going to do a normal image tag, and so img and then src for the source. src, it will pop open with browse. All I have to do is hit the enter button, and this will allow me to search for my images. But before I do that, let me go ahead and hide this, and I'm going to place an image inside of my folder. So I'm going to go ahead and just right click and select new folder inside of my resize folder, my project folder, and I'm just going to type in images inside of that folder. Double click to get into that, and then I'm just going to drag and drop in that placeholder JPEG that I will point to once I actually am inside of Dreamweaver. So going back into my source, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Enter. This will pop open with my browse option. So I'm going to click Browse, go into my desktop and find that resize folder. Go into my images and select that image, and then click Open, and that will have a path to that image. Now if I select refresh on the bottom, let me actually close this out real quick. Typically when you have an image, let me select refresh down at the bottom. Typically when you have an image, you'll have a width and a height. Now I'm going to select that, and so it automatically adds down at the bottom under the width and height. I added the little cross, or I selected the little cross out, and that reset to the original height and width. Now if I was to save this, let's go ahead and hide that, come back into my folder, and then double click on the index.html. What would happen is it would display my image at the original size, height, and width. Now I can adjust that to whatever size I want, but it's not responsive. It doesn't automatically adjust when I'm resizing my browser. So if they're on like a mobile phone, if your users go to it from your mobile phone, they're not going to see the image. It's going to be cut off a little bit. So that's what we want to avoid. So coming back into Dreamweaver, a couple of tricks to do that is, first of all, remove the height and the width inside of the attributes. We're not going to define a limitation there on the height and width. We're actually going to define some other attributes inside of the CSS. So that's the next thing, is I'm going to go ahead and go up to File and then New, and I'm going to select CSS and then click on Create. Now this will create a sampled CSS document for me, and I can start entering in my own CSS. I'm going to save this first of all, and I'm just going to name it mystyle.css. Forget the Y there, and then hit save. Now I can start adding attributes to the image tag. I'm just going to have this happen for all images. If I wanted to specify this, I would need to have an ID or a class or something like that. But I'm going to add this onto the object of the image, and so I have to type in object, then open bracket, close bracket, and then add two attributes. The first attribute is max-height. And now this is where we establish a percentage, because we're saying this is the maximum height that this image will go. It won't go beyond this height. And I'm going to say 90%. I don't want it to take the full screen, but I want it to take most of the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and say max height be 90%. The next thing is max width. So I'm going to go ahead and select width. And then I'm going to also have this be 90%. Now this does not mean that it's going to distort the image at all. It's actually going to keep the proportions of the image, but it's just going to take the maximum width of 90%. It's going to take the maximum height of 90% as well, but it's not going to go beyond that. And so now if I come in here, now I just need to link inside of my head. So I'm going to come into my head, and I'm going to link that CSS file. Now I already have it written down, so I'm going to go ahead and this is just a standard link. So we have a link, style sheet, type is text/CSS, and then the name of this style sheet that we're linking to is mystyle.css, which is what we have over here. And this will automatically link the file. So now if I come into here and I refresh it, you'll notice that this image automatically resized. Well, if I take my browser and I start resizing it, well, that image is automatically going to resize with my browser. So if the learner goes to this HTML page from their mobile device, they're going to see this image. So if you're using an image inside of jQuery Mobile and you want to target both phones and tablets, this is a great way to go. So you just add that attribute, don't establish a height and a width, add the maximum height and maximum width attribute inside of your CSS, and then it will resize. Now, one other thing, if you want this to center, inside of HTML5, you can actually add a center tag. Now, if this is the person navigates to this from a non-HTML5 browser, this will actually just have it automatically go over to the left like it is by default. But at least for those who have HTML5 browsers, if you refresh it now, you'll notice that it automatically positions in the middle, no matter what my size is. So if I resize it, it's always going to be centered and it's always going to resize there. So that's how you auto size your images inside of HTML, which is some simple CSS tricks.